are big sharers. Learn what we've learned during the course of a week only on Pod Pourri, a magazine that will always be loaded only on the Podcaster, powered by Timber Media.
So I think the sound that we were going for was the ticking of a time bomb, because that's what it feels like. I think one of the things about 2023 was that I felt like COVID was behind us. And here we are, three of us, bringing you the final episode of the year 2023 of Pod Pourri in a tight space. Three podcasters without masks, waiting for news of COVID JN.1. Is that what it's called?
I still don't know, but it feels like I am going to be strangled by COVID again. So 2023 might be the only year of freedom we have left.
Right. About 4 or 5 days of it left at the time
about
of this podcast.
About a week.
All right. And that's the doom and gloom kind of note that we're going to set off Pod Pourri on. But don't worry, I don't think that's going to be the motive across this particular podcast. But we are going to bring you some of the top events of the year 2023, some of our big takeaways as a team, as individuals, and hope that you find something of entertainment, something of information on Pod Pourri. My name is Sheetal.
And this is Samita.
And this is Harish. And welcome to Pod Pourri.
From the ridiculous to the sublime and everything in between on Pod Pourri.
You know, I think for podcasters, it's important to keep an eye on all of these articles that consultancy firms come out with, the trend watching kind of articles, you know, top trends in AI for the year 2024, or top ways in which the hospitality sector is going to be revolutionized by something or the other. The other thing that happens end of the year is dictionaries coming out with their words of the year. And every year, we're, I think, given one or two words that we've always thought meant something, and then suddenly tech has claimed that word for itself. And specifically, AI seems to be the tech that is claiming a lot of words that have already for eons existed in the dictionary. And word of the year, I thought we should start with that. My pick probably belongs to, I think, Cambridge, or was it Merriam-Webster? I can't recall, but it's authentic. And the reason this is stuck in my head is because authenticity is something that we hear a lot of, in the context of leaders and how that's required. And I realized it's actually quite impossible to be an authentic leader. This is my big takeaway from 2023. What about you, Harish?
It's interesting, Sheetal, because I did not know about this dictionary thing. So I just picked a word that kind of became the theme for me for 2023 and probably 24 as well. That would be recalibrate. When we were coming out of the pandemic, lockdowns. So this year was about getting back to work and even getting away from the t-shirt and pajamas thing at home. So a lot of it was about rethinking how this, and kind of recalibrating how we go through the week, the year, the month, the year. So I found that that has been the theme for me. So that sticks in my head.
It's an interesting word, recalibrate, because that indeed is what I think all of us have done in the years after we saw the last variant, which was the last big variant, I should say, which is Omicron. I think we've just been recalibrating and bringing ourselves or aligning our minds to take on this new reality, which is the old normal, going back to the old normal. But Samta, what about you?
I mean, I think this is closer to the Gen Z kind of age group. I've heard that situationship and riz are the new words, according again to Oxford. I mean, I thought these words were always in use, but turns out that they're not. And turns out that there's something that was actually pushed quite a lot or used quite a lot by the younger generation, at least my generation. And it's something that's all over social media. You see this quite often. And you see this being used pretty interchangeably as well with other words. I mean, situationship, as most people might know, is a relationship that's not formally or given a formal term or a convention. So turns out that's something that's actually kind of pushed into the Oxford's list of the word of 2023.
So yeah, to sum up the point you're making over here, different words, word of the year. Harish has picked out one that actually just spoke to him personally. You picked out one that made it to the dictionaries. I think Riz was nominated as word of the year by Oxford. And then there was also Merriam-Webster. Authentic is what I spoke of. There was, I think, dictionary.com, and one more, if I'm not mistaken, that was Cambridge, that said hallucination or hallucinating or hallucinate. That's the word of the year in the context of AI again. Speaking of which, I just discovered there's a subtle distinction between abbreviation, acronym, and initialism, the difference between the three. So an abbreviation is just like
shortened form of
RLY
a
for
word.
railway.
Yeah.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
really say RLY, but
Yeah.
you'd write it as RLY for railway or FLY for family.
HR is for hours. Apparently, we want to remove it.
Then there is that. Then an acronym is where you actually say it the way it is. An initialism is where it's like ATM. It's basically, you don't say atom, no, I don't know how to say it, but ATM is just like initials and you're supposed to spell out every
like
letter.
OBGYN.
An acronym is where you would say UNESCO or
Okay.
that's the distinction that one must make between abbreviation, acronyms and initialism. But yes, that is my big learning of, I'd say, the last week. What about yours, Samta?
So something I learned last week was to probably, and this has also been some sort of a theme for me. I think the past year has actually taught me that. It's taught me probably not to plan well in advance for anything. I've realized that I've always been way too much of a planner. So I remember when I was back in college, I planned how my 2023 was going to look like. And since it didn't turn out that way, I learned my biggest learning this year.
Shocking. You didn't turn out that way?
It did. To some extent, it did, which I'm very grateful for. But that's actually been a learning of mine.
Yeah, what about you, Harish?
So something happened last week, I think, last few days, which actually took me by surprise. We spoke about AI a minute ago. So I heard Modi was in some speech he was giving, and they used AI to actually translate the speech real time. That struck me because it's so language is a big deal. Language is a really big deal in India. People genuinely have hatred based off of it. I think yesterday there was also something about somewhere in Bangalore. The Kannada activists went and roughed up a shopkeeper. So this happens with the translation thing. I would assume people would not have, ideally should not have issues with languages anymore. It should be easy enough to understand each other. But I'm also sure we will find ways to still get upset. So what struck me was how AI, this thing which we talk about, this foreign concept, actually plays out in real life in India with common people. So you're seeing that actually it actually will become pervasive in that sense.
Yeah. So you're saying that AI should be able to help us make the country a little bit more inclusive than.
So it's gone from just reports of consulting firms to actual real world impact.
Use cases.
We're seeing that we are going to see that unfold. I see that happening.
Yeah, interesting. AI and languages. I'm waiting to see how that works out. So these are some of the big learnings that we've had as individuals, the three of us, Samta, Harish and me, which we thought we'd share with you on Pod Pourri today. We move on to some other interesting things in a short while.
We are big sharers. Learn what we've learned during the course of a week only on Pod Pourri, a magazine that will always be loaded, only on the Podcaster. Powered by Timber Media.
Right, so I just want to bounce something off you guys. One of the things that struck me this year was a headline that caught me by surprise, and I want to hear your inputs as well. But the one thing that caught me off guard was the UFO thing that played out. Well, UAP, but the whole thing of how UFOs were always a conspiracy theory, Area 51, all of that. Interestingly, always in Western countries, never in the poorer countries, people don't seem to quite see UFOs. But this year when it played out that the Biden government actually was open to it and they want to discuss UFOs, and there was a whole hearing. So I actually heard I watched the whole 2.5 hour video on YouTube because we did a piece on that.
Right.
So everybody go check that piece out. But
Explainers,
yeah.
Also by Podcaster.
Yeah.
So a
UFOs
nice plug over there. Not very subtle, but good points for trying. Yeah.
No shame in that.
Yeah.
All right. So what struck me was the openness with which they are acknowledging it now, and they are actually open to investigating it. And my favorite angle was the fact that the real conspiracy theorists, like when you say man's man, conspiracy theorists would not bite because they're like, well, what are you hiding from us using this story now? So that whole thing was just bizarre. It seemed like one of those moments where you feel like you're living in a TV show and it's not real life, and you're one of those weirdos watching from the side. So the whole thing was surreal. So the whole thing caught me off guard in terms of people really do live up in their head a lot.
But then that said, you did come across in the course of your research for the explainers, Harish, instances of solid evidence of let's just say not alien green men, little green men with horns or whatever, but living substances elsewhere outside of Earth.
Well,
ISRO had some paper, remember?
ISRO actually had the thing. So the thing was about microorganisms, so life, not
Life outside.
No,
Life outside of.
Yeah.
It depends on whether you want to date aliens or not, I suppose. But you won't actually have interspecies marriage yet. Perhaps they only found like bacteria or whatever. But the point is, there is the possibility of life. But I think what intrigued a lot of people was the aliens being on Earth, and the fact that the government, people who were working for the US government saying it's actually true. And they are on YouTube. I still think it'll be a subculture always. But when you listen to it, they're fairly compelling, and these are not idiots.
Interesting. So that was a headline that took you by surprise.
We've also got 3 India headlines. Samantha, you had something about the population ticker that goes off.
Yeah, definitely. India surpassed all other countries probably in the world to become the world's population topper.
Not probable anymore. We have done it.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
But there have always been fluctuations. But I think now we've actually hit the list. We are number 1.
We are Vishwaguru in population. Yeah.
Proud of?
Yeah.
Is that something we really need to be happy about, or should we actually?
Are you saying
if
you
you
don't
ask
like
Elon Musk,
I'm sorry. Samantha saying she doesn't like her fellow Indians.
Absolutely
She's
not. This
proud of
was
them.
taken out of context and churned to produce something completely different.
Are you going to go on a rampage?
No.
No.
Nah.
Yeah.
but-
Besides, again, population is a good thing because you need human beings to solve the problems that human beings create. So that's the whole idea. That's what I think the likes of
Really
Musk
sound like a
say.
chicken farm, Sheetal.
That's what I think we should soon disabuse ourselves of notions of being superior to any other form of life on the planet. Sooner we do that, the better for us. But that was a surprising headline for me, by the way, since we're also talking about surprises, because honestly, I've always thought that China would be one baby ahead of us.
One baby ahead of us.
Yeah. So that was my surprising headline of the year. The second big India headline was, of course, India goes to the moon.
Yes.
That one was massive.
That's actually pretty impressive. Because I remember talking to a lot of people who say, why does India need a space program? So you hear other countries saying, you're broke and you're poor, you don't need it. So that was pretty interesting to see. And the fact that we've actually made it and we're probably good at it, I think I loved seeing the outpouring of hatred that came our way. Really vindicated that we're onto something good.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I think that was another thing that was sort of surprising for me because honestly, from the previous year's debacle, was it the previous year?
I think
just about a couple of years, right? Somehow when we were watching television, this was like, I think, India moment, just like, banging thalis on COVID to drive the virus away. This was, I think, everyone was glued to the TV set and we was tracking that commentary from ISRO that spoke about the landing. And somewhere in the back of my head, I was like, this is not going to happen. So there was an element of happy surprise that it actually did. Yeah. It's not to say that I don't trust our abilities, but things can go wrong. Things go wrong with NASA.
So I believe they did plan this time for, they overcorrected. In fact, I don't know if you can call it overcorrect, but they did plan for eventualities such that now they've actually got the thing circling back to Earth. So they planned it pretty well. So the whole thing was done really well.
Superb. Yeah. And the third headline, certainly a surprise, and this one is not a nice surprise.
No, it's not. So I won't say it to you. It hurts.
What? It hurts?
It's still hurting.
Lost. We lost. That's all that you need to know. You don't need to know where we lost. You know, when Indians say we lost, there's only one thing that should come to your mind in the year 2023.
वर्ल्ड कप हारने के बाद मैदान पर ही रो पड़े विराट, रोहित और बाकी सभी खिलाड़ी। जी हां दोस्तों, भारतीय टीम का और भारतीय फैंस का एक और बार दिल पूरी तरह से टूट गया है।
So 3 big India headlines, all of them awe-inspiring, if not surprising. So a quick rundown on what else has happened in the year 2023. Let's see social media, and here I'm going to just be the fly on the wall because I'm not a big user of social media.
We could also talk about Twitter and Threads, newer innovations that have come in the social media world, rebranding of Twitter.
Yeah.
What rebrand?
I mean, the name, and there was a huge
Nobody even
debate.
uses that name.
X, correct.
They don't, that's true. They don't really use. But then at one point of time when it just
It's like calling
launched,
Facebook Meta. Nobody does it.
Yeah, that's true. But there was this whole comparison between Threads and Twitter once upon a time.
But Threads, nobody...
It kind of died
does it
down.
have people anymore? The whole thing is gone.
It does. It's, the fever has kind of died down. But then there was this whole debate on what's better, Threads versus Twitter, and why, there's this comparison in the first place. It was a huge rage once upon a time. I remember.
Only when it launched.
When it initially
3 weeks,
launched.
everyone had just more or less.
Yeah.
And that's what,
Social
more or less,
media.
that's going to peter down. And this, by the way, was an off-take, but I'm going to keep this in the podcast because that was how we sometimes
Sneaky.
sound.
Did not see that clip.
I did not know it was recording.
That's all right. War. I mean, did you see that coming? And just from we're not going to get into
War?
Details of
What
war.
surprised me was after the pandemic, how quickly people actually had planned, and then the whole war thing happened.
Yeah.
I was surprised, and I guess it's lessons that, but unlike Samantha, some people do plan very, very far ahead.
I used to do until this year, disclaimer. And then I realized to go with the flow.
Yeah. But Samantha's planning and wars being planned to different levels altogether. And well, that was a bit of a shocker. I didn't think, maybe it's the eternal optimist in me. I didn't really think we are now the warmongering sorts that we were in.
Well, it's going to get worse
BC.
now with the bunch of with the pirates around Yemen, and now there's talk of, well, now since the ships will go around South Africa, we might see more piracy there.
Right.
So, interesting times.
Yeah. Time to walk hand in hand into extinction.
Yeah, that's a very
Or
sad
we'll be
way.
dragged anyway, I think.
We are big sharers. Learn what we've learned during the course of a week only on Pod Pourri, a magazine that will always be loaded only on the Podcaster, powered by Timber Media.
So the other big one this year, I suppose, is the Shah Rukh Khan's movies are becoming a hit. So he's found his mojo again. We've had a few hit movies this year, actually. He's had Jawan, he's had what was the other one? Pathaan,
Yeah.
Jawan, and I think the other one, Dunki's coming in.
Right.
So I don't know if that's doing so well. The hype's a bit understated for that, but yeah.
Donkey.
Donkey.
Donkey?
लोगों ने मुझसे पूछ के परेशान कर दिया है.
Oh, all right. We've learned something new on
Yeah.
this very podcast.
I think Dunki more than
Donkey.
Dunki. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, tells you how much we watch movies, but
Right. So Animal was a big hit. Is a big hit.
yeah.
Surprising. Ranbir Kapoor's back again.
Third largest grosser of the year for India, I think. And he is in, and the movie has obviously given a lot of people reason to think, question, and so on. And it's the same old stuff that we point out. Does art mimic, reality, or is it the other way around? Of misogyny and violence. And I'm like, the movie is called Animal. It's not called Lollipop, right? Why would you expect anything that is other than animal-like in the movie? So yes, violence. And clearly people who are commenting on this as, a movie that promotes misogyny or violence or something haven't watched Game of Thrones. They simply haven't. No. And there are 5 billion other movies. Soaps on Indian television on a regular basis peddle all kinds of misogynistic points of view, which never really called out as such. So I really don't think this movie, the problems the movie has, it's about 75 minutes too long. And the storyline is a bit weak. It's about, and the parts where they have Anil Kapoor and Ranbir coming together trying to, see my point of view, you step into my shoes, I'll step into yours. It simply doesn't work at all. I mean, it just fell flat. I love the gory mask horde, massacres that happened in the movie. I went for that. I saw where Vanga was really coming from. Couldn't really see what was wrong with the film other than the two things that I called out, length and storyline. So I didn't see the whole misogyny thing. It didn't stick at all for me anywhere.
Yeah.
Violence, show me another one. I've seen plenty
The
of
idea that
violence.
people are so impressionable, they're lemmings, and all, a movie will come and ruin them, a song will ruin them, a video game will make them shoot people because someone shot someone there. It's a bit tired at this point.
It's tired. Yeah. And are we tired? Are we calling it a wrap? On a movie note.
On a movie now.
All right, but 2024 we haven't spoken of at all. One big expectation
Actually, that's
for
interesting.
2024.
2024, the theme for me, recalibrate.
When is that going to end? It's a work in progress?
It's a work in progress.
Okay. And what are the areas in which recalibration is expected to unfold in?
Unfold in health and travel. Health and travel.
Health and travel. You?
So I would like to go back on what I said initially and probably say plan, but plan to an extent where things don't get rigidly, stuck in frameworks. But there's always
I like
a little
this. You
room
started this podcast.
Yeah, which is
saying
why I
that-
said I would like to go back on what I said. So plan, but to an extent where it's not, confined in boxes, but there's always little room.
Wait, are you
for
saying you'll
exploring.
plan but you won't stick to your plans?
No, I'm saying I will plan, but I'll always leave windows open.
In an ever-changing world, it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah.
So it's even if you've done it in the course of a single podcast, I suppose that's all right. And 2024, I certainly hope is a year of good health for everybody. Seeing as we began this podcast on the note of a bogeyman in the name of J1. That's the
New
COVID
COVID.
variant.
It's
The
new
new
COVID.
COVID. All right, new COVID. On that note, take care of yourself. We'll be back soon. This is Sheetal signing out.
This is Samata.
And this is Harish.
We are big sharers. Learn what we've learned during the course of a week only on Pod Pourri, a magazine that will always be loaded only on the Podcaster, powered by Timber Media.